Step aside, Final Fantasy XVI. There is a new controversy king this year, and it's Starfield. What's up, nerds, and welcome to InGame. I'm Hoops4, and today I want to discuss all the controversies of Starfield, the community takes, and my own personal thoughts after nearly 30 hours of gameplay. As Bethesda's first entry in a new IP for over 25 years, it has topped mine and plenty of others gamers' lists as the most anticipated game of the year. Not to mention, this is one of the biggest releases so far in Xbox's first-party catalog from newly acquired studios. And it's arriving day one on Game Pass, and it's trying to remedy the failure of Redfall. So yeah, in short, there is a lot riding on Starfield. So let's see how it's landed the ship. Without further ado, let's enter gaming.
Enter gaming.
Starfield is arguably the biggest Xbox exclusive in years, and that has inevitably led to a large amount of discourse and toxicity online. And that's what I want to tackle first today, because there are a lot of Xbox fans, especially, saying that Starfield is a perfect 10, and on the flip side, there are people calling it a flop, with plainly biased reviews after only a handful of hours. Like many things in life, I think the real answer is somewhere in between. I will come out and say firsthand that I love Starfield. However, I don't think it's a perfect 10 when all is said and done. But I don't think it's as bad as a surprising number of reviewers have made it out to be. I've seen graphical comparisons to 2013 games, NPC comparisons to linear games, and heard the term loading screen simulator used more than once. First and foremost, Starfield is a Bethesda game, and right down to its DNA, it is a Bethesda game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you enjoy the Skyrims and Fallouts of the world, odds are you are going to like Starfield. And if you aren't a fan of those titles, then guess what? Starfield probably won't be for you. Because honestly, Starfield is a new space-themed coat of paint over the structure of Fallout and Skyrim. And that is exactly what you want if you are a fan of those series. And Bethesda stuck to their guns, and they deserve credit for that. They built Starfield in the creation engine, and for better or worse, it shows. Yes, there are a ton of loading screens, but honestly, I never even thought about it until I saw the complaints on Twitter. That is just how the creation engine runs, and yeah, there are a few places where I was surprised to see it loading so often, but it's not a total turnoff by any means. I am running Starfield on the Xbox Series X, and these load times are a couple of seconds in most cases. It's not ideal, but it's far from a deal breaker. It would have been nice if they had disguised their loading better, maybe with longer travel animations or something like that, but again, it's not a deal breaker. Now, I gotta talk for a minute about the 7s, but I will keep it short. Obviously, game reviews are subjective, and that's the point. It's a place for reviewers to share their opinions. In the case of IGN Stan Stapleton, I wish there was a bit more care taken to who the reviewer is at the outlet. That would solve plenty of problems, as currently Xbox fans are pulling old tweets from Dan, knocking the Xbox acquisition of Bethesda, and showing a ton of support for Sony first-party games. I personally will give the benefit of the doubt, but it just feels a bit off. I read his review and he has plenty of balance between the good and the bad, but it's just his history that leaves a sour taste in your mouth, wondering the what-if questions over his loyalties. But on the other side, there are plenty of reviews that are across the board. Reviewers and users alike can't seem to agree on much with this game, so his really isn't out of place. But on that, be sure to leave your thoughts on Starfield down below, because I want to hear from the community on this one. Also, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to join an awesome community of gamers and nerds. So yes, there are problems. The loading screens are just one of them. Similarly, there is an awful lot of fast travel. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because on one hand, fast travel gets you back to the action really quick, but on another, it's more menu shifting. Where there is fast travel, there is a loading screen, and there is more navigating a somewhat clunky UI. Especially when it comes to inventory management, the UI lacks a bit of information and ends up feeling a bit off. But I have found the inventory management super satisfying, and I got used to the UI pretty quick, so for me, it all kinda evened out. I've kind of come to the idea that Starfield is a game that has a pivotal moment of, I get it now. And I feel like that's a common thing going around, where Starfield feels like a game that takes X many hours to get good, or X many hours to click with you, the player. The intro is a bit rushed in some regards, but it gets you into things fast, so it depends on how much setup you want for your game. It is widely agreed that the intro is the weakest part of the game, and I do happen to agree. However, I was also hooked by the story right away, however rushed it may have been. I wanted to know what was next, I wanted to know what I saw, and I wanted to get out and get my answers. And that is really where Starfield hits its stride, and that point is subjective, but the game is incredible once it clicks. That click could be an hour for one person, and could be 10 hours for the next. I would say that it probably takes between 4 and 6 hours on average to really click with this game. But that's not to write that off as a small amount of time, because that is time out of your busy life to try and get into a game. But in the scale of the game, that is a really small ask. So perspective matters along with your personal interests on this one. Before I move on, there are a couple more big complaints. The first is that I've seen plenty in regards to the open space on planets. And while yeah, it can be a bit annoying at times, especially when encumbered, which you are about 93% of the time in this game, I think it fits. The empty space has to be there to give the cities and the settlements their meaning. Without that empty space, that negative space, you lose the fact that your astronaut is a needle in the haystack of the universe. And that is a powerful feeling that doesn't come easily. But it can only happen with plenty of negative space to make the real areas, these lively cities, come alive. I think the resource gathering and the fauna scanning aspects of that negative space is fine, and I think they will matter more later in the game when you have outposts, but it is the best of a situation with all the emptiness that needs to be there for the game's tone and setting. Then there are the characters and the NPCs, which are a tough thing to nail, and they vary in quality across the game. In all, they are much better here than in other Bethesda titles. Overall, the facial animations are well done, and there are a few that feel a bit off though. They don't match the quality of a focused linear game, but that's not what Starfield is. In the same way, the set pieces may not be the biggest and most Hollywood explosive thing you've ever seen, because again, that's not this game. The dialogue choices with this game are better than Fallout 4's, but not by too much. I'm a little disappointed with the options at hand because they just don't fit a ton of variety and a ton of situations. For the most part, it feels like there's your general good guy answer, there's a bit of a snarky answer, and then there's like this I'm confused neutral kind of thing. And it's not great. But overall, I've enjoyed it, and I enjoy having my little snarky comments to NPCs. With all of these complaints in mind, it may be a wonder that Starfield has even reviewed as well as it has. But I'm going to take a different approach and step back for a second, because those numbers out of 5 or 10, they only mean so much, and it can be tough sometimes to put a game in a category like that, just by a number. And I feel like Starfield may be one of those games. You can look at its build quality, its performance, its NPCs, its slow start, its fast traveling, or whatever else you want. But how fun is this game? If you enjoy Bethesda, then you're gonna absolutely love this game. It is the epitome of their gaming formula. If this is a game for you, then you will love it regardless of these bugs, because this game has a personality, it has ambition above all else, and it has charm. These are the foundation of Bethesda Studios. It's the reason why Skyrim has been played for over 10 years. It's the reason a number 1 through 10 will never capture Starfield. Starfield has its issues, sure, and it may not be a critical masterpiece, but considering the scale of this game and how much it has accomplished, it is incredible by all accounts. And on top of all that, the comparisons to the first-party Sony games were always going to arise. They just were, and those games are good, mind you. Starfield isn't God of War, The Last of Us, Uncharted, or Horizon. Starfield is just Bethesda. It's just different, and that's okay. Not every game will be this critical masterpiece applauded by critics, and that's fine. To give you my opinion, let me first say that I have both a Series X and a PS5, and while I've always been an Xbox guy, having had an Xbox in every generation since the OG, I've spent about 95% of my time this generation on the PS5. I have always enjoyed Xbox, and this generation, I happen to love PlayStation, and it has some amazing exclusives, but mostly, I just want to play good games regardless of the system. With that in mind, and considering my 29-ish hours in Starfield, I really like this game. I'm not going to give it a number since I haven't reviewed it, and this isn't a review, and I haven't even finished the game. But man, this game is everything I've wanted. And yeah, it's not perfect, and I stand by that. It's not a 10, but it's not as low as a 7, and definitely not a 5. I think it belongs in between. It does have its problems, but it is a freaking fun game that I can't wait to lose myself in every night. It's another Bethesda game, and that's just what I wanted. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of gaming discussion content, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so I know. Be sure to leave that comment down below on your thoughts on Starfield. I'm Hoops4, this is In-Game, and I'll see you lot in the next one. Peace. Thank you for watching, right here on In-Game. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content.